guys, welcome back to another Doomfuls podcast. We have the famous, one of the CDH goats right now. We got some Freedom Waffle. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm bringing
Happy
my
to be
energy
here.
up a little bit. I'm super excited.
No, I love it. This is great energy.
Yeah, man. So let's get to know you a little bit. How and when did you get into Magic?
Yeah, so I started playing Magic. I went on and off through like school. So I started playing in middle school. I played I forget the set name, but right when the Eldrazi first came out, right? But this is middle school. I'm playing some standard. I got back into it in high school for some Commander, and I was playing. We proxied everything to start with, right? Then we started buying cards, but that was like we were just using printer. My teacher at the time was super into it, so he printed us all decks, and we got into it. And then quit for a while, got back into it. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, that set came out, and that was actually when I first started like playing again and playing a lot. And then since then, I've been hooked. So
really?
Started traveling to tournaments, grinding a ton, and just playing a ton of Magic to make up for the years that I wasn't.
What's that? 2 years, I believe. I've been playing.
Yeah, it was. It must have been like a little over 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, 2.5.
Kamigawa was one of my first big sets that came out, and I got so much of Kamigawa. Yeah.
Me too.
Midnight Hunt.
I was stoked.
Yeah.
Right, and I still only exclusively use Kamigawa full art basics.
Those are one of my favorites. They're so cool. The Japanese ones.
Yes.
Yeah, those
exactly the ones that full art with the
Remember
Japanese
when the
names.
Haidutsu guy came out with all the crazy neon colors?
Yes, I was trying to open him until I realized that buying packs was a trap.
Dude,
but hey, I didn't know anything back then.
We're exact same. I was like, I had to rush to my LGS. I was like, we have to buy all these collector. My God, this is going to hit the lottery. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, all the neon. Yeah, no, exactly. Why did they make it such a bad card?
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, because I pulled a normal one and I kept looking. I was like, why can't this card just be good? Like now I don't even care that much, which is of course like my mentality in CDH. I don't care about the actual I'm not someone to bling out my decks, right? Like at all. I don't care. I just want the cards. I just want to play. That's what I'm here for. So I know a lot of people are in it for both, but like for me, it's the competition and just like I love the mental challenge of all of it.
Yeah, me too. That's so funny. I hate when I love the masterpieces, but I'm with you. I'd rather just play. But if I can't get my hands on a masterpiece, why did they like do serialized and masterpiece cards of like dog shit cards? Like, oh my God, I got a Gear Hulk of a masterpiece. Like, woo!
You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, no one cares about your serialized Soul Guide Lantern Magna player.
No, absolutely. I totally agree.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. So that answers my first like big question was, when did you start playing CDH? So it looks like about 2 years. Okay.
Yeah. And then cool. I just started traveling. Well, so I got lucky and my LGS is awesome. Has some really good players, some ex-Pro Tour players, and just an all-around good scene and like super supportive too. Like I can't speak highly enough of them. Tavern of Souls Gaming in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Check them out. They're the best. But from New Mexico. Started traveling with some friends that were going to events, went to Silicon Dynasty 1, and then just, the online scene made it super easy. I got top 16 with Marnius Calgar was my first tournament commander.
Whoa.
Yep. Still play him too, but not to tournaments. So yeah, Marnius was the one. And then, in the next one, I brought Dargo Thrasios, grinded a bunch, was winning a ton of my LGS. I was like, all right, let's try this Mox Masters. And, just won the whole thing on the first try, like on a big tournament with the deck. And I was like, yo, this is awesome. I love this deck. So, that was a blast. And, just kind of got hooked, like fully hooked after
That's what I remember is the Mox Masters is I feel like every Mox Masters for like 4 months, you're either winning it or top fouring. I remember that crazy game you posted, I think it was your top 16 game where you went land pass on the play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And then you go land dockside fucking win somehow with training ground.
The Displacer Kitten making like 7. Yeah. And that was like my first real, that was the first like tournament win outside of my locals, right?
Yeah.
I had won a couple of like 1Ks at my locals before that, but that was about it. And
Yeah.
so like, that was super cool.
I sleeved
And
the deck right away as soon as I saw that.
yeah.
That was my real deck for a
Oh
while.
man, rip Dockside, man. Oh, good times. I'll never forget that
Dargo,
tournament.
nah.
Yeah, right. And funny enough, the only game I lost that entire day, I was to the only other person playing Dargo Thrasios, which was hilarious. And it was in round 1. It was Manila Midget Sean. So I thought that was awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious. You're like, I respect it.
Yeah, exactly. No one knew what the deck was doing, right? That's why we were able to do like, so well, right? After people started respecting it more, it was like definitely a little harder, but
Yeah.
So.
Before we get into the CDH meta, I do want to talk about the bans just a little bit. Do you think, I know Blue Farm, obviously that's like been your main deck for a while. How hard did it hit Blue Farm? And is Dargo Thrasios dead? I have to ask the Dargo player.
Well, we'll answer the big question first. Dargo Thrasios is pretty much dead. I mean, so I have been cooking with it. I mean, dead is subjective, right? Like I think you could still play the deck, you can still win with the deck, but the entire point of the deck was get Dockside and then figure it out.
Like
right?
Corval
So
dead, I mean.
The whole thing.
Corval's dead.
Yeah. Right. Well, Corval's more dead, I'll say that. But
yeah.
like at least we still have some Dargo combos that are like viable. But so Manila Midget he's actually the reason I started playing the deck. He's a close friend of mine, and so he's been cooking more. I haven't been testing Dargo Thras after the bans, but I've been cooking with it, playing with him, and he still wins games. You just have to take it way slower, do some alter and alter of Phyrexia, Phyrexian alter, and then alter of Dementia, and a couple other things like that. Sack outlets that just go infinite with Dargo. That still works, but it's like not as explosive. Yeah, Bergie, greater good. But anyways, it's not explosive. The deck is just not nearly as good. Probably, I don't know, tier 2 deck. If there's like S tier, tier 1, and then tier 2.
Okay,
like that, right?
I see what you're saying.
That's where I'd put it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it's still viable, but it's like I'm not going to take it to tournaments, right?
Yeah, I have a Rock Thras deck that I'm like, okay, I'm not playing that deck anytime soon.
And Blue Farm, I have for a very long time considered the best deck in the format.
For sure.
Recently, before the bans, I considered Rog basically on par for the first time after like the changes with Necrodominance, Valley Floodcaller, and Flare. Those pushed the deck so far.
Oh,
no one else really got that much.
Flare alone. Holy shit.
And double Necropotence is just so hard to beat. So yeah, I definitely would say, it was the best deck. Now certainly has been dethroned, which has been the first time in a long time.
Really?
And I think Rogsai is in my mind clearly the best deck.
Really?
I still think Blue Farm is. It's hard to say because I haven't there's not been much testing. I'll tell you what deck I've been playing with in a little bit, but I've been not really playing with Blue Farm partially because I want to just change it up a little bit. So I think I would put it as the tied for second best deck in the format still. And that's what I think everyone's wrong about. I think everyone thinks Blue Farm has been hit too hard, and I think the deck is still very good, but people are underestimating it very heavily.
Correct.
So
I couldn't agree with you more. TNT
the game plan hasn't changed.
Yeah, TNT is not the best deck now, and Blue Farm is not garbage.
No.
Y'all are crazy.
I think what people forget is that the strength of Blue Farm is you get your tutors online or your card draw online, with either Ristic Study Mystic Memorial or your commanders. And once you have that online, all you need is one tutor to win the game because you're naturally casting cards, your graveyard's filling up a little bit. Once you have enough mana, you cast one tutor, you get Breach, you cast the tutor again from the graveyard, you can get LED, and you cast it again. You get Brain Freeze, right? And of course, the more cards you have, the easier it is. So it's like that is still probably the best thing you can be doing in the format. And of course, Rogside does the same
card
thing,
quality, right?
faster.
That's why Blue Farm's been so good, because Blue Farm can adjust to any deck, to any meta.
Yes.
It can adjust, and the card quality is still super high. No, we don't get early Croms anymore, but the Tymna plan wasn't even the best thing about the deck anymore. The best thing about the deck
the biggest tragedy of the deck.
Yeah.
The biggest tragedy is I had to put Draenith Magistrate back in, which is a really good card. So the deck is still good.
Yeah, darn. Take out Mana Crypt, add Draenith, call it a day.
Right, I know. But I mean, I think I'm going to be switching. Well, so once I get explore the meta a little bit, try some decks that I don't think are going to be the best decks for a little bit longer, I'm going to be switching fully to Rogsai. So I'm expecting to play Rogsai at upcoming tournaments.
Me too.
But this weekend I'm going to be playing Shorokai.
Ooh.
So that's going to be fun.
Okay.
So that's what I've been playing for the most part.
I saw you cooking on a channel. I saw you. I can
Yep.
see a little bit. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I like obviously like you're one of the best CDH players statistically, and like when the one of the best CDH players takes a blue farm, you fucking do work. But I love when people like you, like Ian, that go out of their comfort zone and take a deck like Shorkai and do work as well, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I think for me it's like I don't like to play a deck that I don't think is, actually viable, right? Like Dargothras, I never thought it was the best deck, but it was always very viable, right? And same with like Tevesh Krom. I love Tevesh Krom too, by the way. I
Oh,
played that deck for a long time.
hell yeah! It's my main deck.
And right, it's awesome.
Not
But
anymore.
well,
Rest in
it was.
peace.
But yeah, so no, but those decks are awesome. For me though, like, I do really I'm a very competitive person, right? So I'm coming to these tournaments, I'm trying to win money.
Mhm.
I wish I was super rich and didn't have to care about travel expenses, but I try to go into all these tournaments either, breaking even or making money. So that's the goal. So like I try not to go on decks that I just don't believe in. But Shorkai,
Right.
with these bannings, I do think is like a deck I believe in. It's been performing like crazy.
Damn.
But of course,
Okay.
realistically, I'm going to be playing more Rogsai and more Kinnan. So
Kinnan.
that's where we're at.
Yeah, well, that's the
Kinnan's great too.
that's
Yeah,
the elephant in the
it's a
room.
good
I
deck.
think he's definitely the best winner, right? I think we can all agree. I don't.
Yeah, probably. I think Rogsai is the best winner. I think Kinnan's the second best winner.
Okay, all right, well that's debatable. So let's talk about that. So again, Roxai is my main right now because Tevish Krom is dead. So with Roxai, everyone's like, "Oh my god, Dockside Mana Crypt." Yes, those are crazy ass cards in the deck, right? But it got banned for everybody else, so Roxai's fine.
Right.
And now you're not just main phasing Adnaz. I've
Right.
played 7-8 games with the new meta in Roxai, and I'm
Mhm.
probably 50-60% or almost winning that close, right? So I think Roxai probably is top 2 deck. It's still insane, but it definitely got hit though. So I gotta see the meta first. I gotta see a big tournament result before I go, hey, Roxai is the best, because the format slowed down probably a turn, maybe, right? Like now there's gonna be these crazy Esper decks that no one's seen before. These Tin Thrasios is back, everyone's grinding that deck, and that's a stacks deck for the most part, right?
Yep. A friend of mine has been playing Yoshimaru Thrasios just because he missed Dargo, so he's calling it Doggo Thras. So no, and he cooks with it. Like, right, we have.
That's
I think the cool
insane.
thing right now is that these decks are viable because there's time. Right,
Mhm.
none of them are going to be the best thing ever, but a lot of times there's a lot more time in these games. But here's the thing: Rogsai hasn't slowed down. I don't. If anything, it's slowed down by 0.25 of a turn. Right, because sometimes you're not on Mana Crypt. Dockside, honestly, they're most of the time winning before Dockside's that good. Right. The only time Dockside's, of course, like insane is in other turbo pods for the most part, and or just luckily everyone has a fast start. But
Right.
they don't need Dockside.
I
Right,
agree.
Rogsai is just able to win on turn 2 consistently. The
I think
only
Mana Crypt is
downside in the current meta is that people are understanding that if they stop Rogsai, they probably don't lose to the next person. And that's different than before. Because before, there was a T&K sitting to the left of Rogsai, and you force a Willer Adnaz, and T&K untaps, and either jams a Ristic and never loses, or has been fed already, or they just, drop a breach because they were fed from the win attempt, right? And then they win the game. So I think because of that, everyone else is slower. A lot of people are leaning into more interaction, more stacks, and Rogsai is getting hurt by that in the crossfire. And it's like,
right.
I think it's a 3v1 more often than it was because all the other decks are worse, right? So that's my only concern with playing the deck right
exactly now. That's why I'm not ready to stamp the best deck, because the meta has changed. Like, I don't think it's going to be an invitational where there's going to be 50 Rogsais at the Boil 2. I don't think that at all. I think there's going to be like the best players with Rogsai, like yourself and Ori. I think they're going to do a lot of work. But I definitely think I talked to Shawnee about it, and he was like, well, I love the bannings because now no one can just go, ooh, Dockside for 8, I win the game. Yay, turn my brain off. He's like, now we have to go back to playing Magic. Now we have to sequence. Now we have to do good plays and not just feed a guy a Ristic Study because we're pushing our win that's not going to win, right? So at first I was with you. I was flabbergasted. I don't know what to do. And now I'm fucking excited, dude. I haven't played this much Magic spell table in probably 6
honestly
months.
Same. I've been playing a lot of Magic
Is
recently,
this
and
what we
it's a
wanted?
little bit of a change.
Probably not. It was it a little
No,
drastic? Yeah. Are we okay?
yeah,
Yes. I'm more excited.
right.
I have this. Look, I've blown up 7 decks, 8 decks, and I don't know what to do. I only have 2 decks now, but I'm okay. I'm all right.
Yep.
I just wish
Oh
they
yeah,
didn't do it
I think
right
you have to
before the
look at it
biggest
like that.
CDH tournament ever.
Yeah, right.
Right?
I
Y'all do
know,
it
I know.
December, right? But
Yeah,
it's okay.
right. I don't know. It's interesting for sure, and I think that like my take on it is that we're going into this new meta, and I think that like we're excited now, and I think the excitement will continue. I think the meta is still fine. Everything's okay. I don't necessarily think these bans were good for the format. I think bans in general, like I think if there was any impactful cards banned, we might have had the same result because people are trying new things. And so I'm stoked, but I do think that, the fact that it was done for without CDH in mind, I think obviously, Jeweled Lotus killed a ton of decks, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, it didn't hurt Rogsai, didn't hurt Kinnan, and the realistically looking at the meta, it changes what CDH is inherently, right? Dockside obviously is the most broken card in the format. Hey, I didn't want to ban it because I think it's fun, but like I can like that's the most reasonable ban.
You
ever.
understand? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Dockside like shouldn't have been printed. Like it's just that it's too fun, right? Like I don't know.
I agree.
So that's and I think regardless, it's going to be totally fine. I think the people hating on the RC, don't do that. Come on, they're just trying to do what they think is best, and they're not trying to like, that's all they're doing. So,
yeah.
But I think it'll be really interesting where Wizards goes with this because looks like they're going to be looking at this, evaluating this a little bit. Well, taking a step back, being objective, and saying, hey, what actually makes sense for the format, and they're considering CDH, and I think that's what I'm really, really excited about because
I'm
again,
nervous.
a meta shakeup is fun, but I'm hoping we actually get a better format, and that's the goal, right? A better format, and I'm looking forward to the future because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So we'll see where we go. It's uncharted waters right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little controversy there because for me, like, yeah, they say it wasn't for CDH, but like, I don't really see a lot of Mana Crypts and Docksides in casual, me personally. And I feel like Mana Crypt was our Soul Ring. So I did feel a little attacked, but I agree with you. I don't think they were like, you know what? We're going to get those CDH players. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they did that. Well, and people are just pissed off because they hit a red button and everyone's Mana Crypts and Jewel Lotus are on fire now. Like that is a rough red button to hit, but we're okay.
Oh yeah,
right. It's been.
I mean, I think it was a mistake. Right, I think it was a mistake, but I think that's okay. Like it is what it is, and I think like I guess the only thing maybe CDH was a catalyst to these bans, but regardless, I think just reading their justifications, they're not trying to balance CDH. Right? I mean, maybe I like to think they weren't trying to ruin it, but they're not trying to balance it, and that's the thing that I'm hoping changes with Wizards of the Coast taking over. I mean, we'll have to see, right? It's
it makes me nervous.
I mean, I think
I don't know.
It does make me nervous too, but like they have motivation to make the format better, right? They now are taking it like they're making this an official Wizards format. They are managing the ban list, therefore they're going to run events and print more cards because of it, and they're going to make more money if the format succeeds. So they're financially invested to the format succeeding.
Yeah.
And I mean, that encourages them to do a good job. So we'll see what happens, right? But I think that I have hope. I think it makes sense.
Do you think they'll make it a actual format?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think this is a big first step. I feel like why wouldn't they, right? Like before,
I don't know.
Well, the proxy issue, of course, we'll see how that goes. But I think people will play in their events, right? They're going to play in the Wizard events, and I'm sure people can play in non-proxy events, just the same way everyone could before. I mean, hey, if I play with my friends with proxies, no one can tell me no. And I have a lot of proxies, so like it's gonna keep happening, right? And I think tournament organizers are gonna still do it, but of course you can now just play ideally in Wizard tournaments as well. And so I think like there's no reason they wouldn't make it a real format. They're gonna make more money. So
yeah, I think the second they see the dollar signs, like, oh shit, they are buying all these masterpieces. Yeah. Oh, maybe this is where we do a CDH.
Hey, I know some CDH players with $80,000 decks. Like there's money.
Oh yeah, once they see that, we're gonna turn the corner. But I digress. Like I said, it's been about over a week now, a few days since that happened. So I
Yep.
probably won't post this for a couple weeks or a month. We'll see. But going forward, don't care about any of that. We're talking to Freedom Waffle, one of the best CDH players in the world. I got to pick your brain, man. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to a tournament. What do you think winning a tournament and doing good in a tournament like you have and so consistently, is it a little bit of confidence, skill, luck, the ball rolled your way? Is it
Yeah.
politics? Like what, how could someone like me that hasn't really top 16, but like I'm pretty knowledgeable in CEDH. How does someone like me take a tournament like you do? Like, how do you? Like, it just seems like you're winning everything. Like you and Ian and Wounded. It's like, fuck, guys, save some for the rest of us. What is the secret formula, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I'll tell you, there's no one. There isn't a secret formula, right? There's no one thing that does it, right? I mean, realistically, you're gonna have to. I mean, the cool thing about CDH is that you have to be good at game mechanics and you have to be good at politics.
Mm,
And like that encompasses a lot of different skills in itself. But like
mhm,
those are two different skills, and in 1v1, I would argue that in most of those formats, there's more mechanics but there's no politics, right? So there's no social aspect of the game. And that's harder to just get better at, right? Like it's a thing that just takes practice and it's harder to like
mhm.
really refine that. And so
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the short answer to all of this though, of course, is just practice, right? And that's I do a lot of coaching sessions, and hey, if you want coaching, reach out to me, Freedom Waffle on Discord.
Okay.
But I tell every single person going into that you know no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what advice you're going to get, you're going to need to practice. And that's how you get better at the game, right? Figuring out how to practice well is important. And I think that one big suggestion, honestly, is be the worst player in your playgroup. That's key. Your main playgroup. Just find players who are better than you and learn from them. And, take that, just bring, absorb all of the information and try to better your own games. Even record your games, look back on them. That's super important.
Okay.
As far as tournaments go, I think one thing that I think people sometimes I get a lot of questions of like, okay, I'm trying to top 16. How do I do that? Well, you need to start practicing like it's a top 16 game. Or you're Swiss, right? Like,
Mhm,
there's two types of games, right? Top 16 match and a Swiss match. There's differences. Time is a difference. Obviously, you're going to be playing against the best players in the tournament, so that's a difference, right? So,
mhm.
and you're going to have to approach those games in a different way. But trying to understand, like, going at it, like, how do I top 16 this tournament? Like, that's not really it. It's like, how do I become the best player I can be in my non-tournament games? And that's the only way to do it. Also, like, going to a tournament is also like the best tournament practice, right? So
Mhm.
just go to more tournaments. And I know that's not like a great answer that people want to hear, but that's the truth, right? It's like a lot of this is just like really try to take in, be introspective and learn from your mistakes and play against players who are better than you, and it's going to make you a better player. That's the biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like you, Waffle, or you, Ori, Jorman, Ian, y'all have one thing in common, and you're all tournament grinders.
Yep.
And the guys you're going against are the best players.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah, no, totally.
that
And I
makes
think
sense.
like, you said like nerves. I think, just treat it like a normal game. There's nothing different in a top 4 game, the biggest tournament of your life, and a game with your friends. It's
Mhm,
just you got to keep your nerves, play the same way you would in that practice game. Of course, making sure you're not being sloppy, but
mhm.
make sure you're just your deck, exactly what you're trying to do, and don't fall victim to someone else's politics if you know what you're trying to do, right? Like you
Yeah.
need to make sure that you know your game
Yeah, tell them to shut the fuck up.
plan.
I got
Well, hold on. I'm a certified yapper. Don't do that.
you had the silver tongue a little bit. I like that. I like that. So tell us a little bit about like the life of a CDH grinder. Is it as easy as it looks? Is travel really hard on you? Does that affect the way you play? Like, how is it traveling to all these tournaments? It seems like every weekend, you know.
Oh,
The-
I mean, I think it's great. I love it. It's what I look forward to the most. I don't think it's hard on me at all. I think it's just how many can I go to, because I have a 9 to 5 job, and
Mhm.
I need to make sure that I can pay bills. So that's the only thing. I think it'd be nice to be obviously like full time and able to go to every single one. But no, I think they're great. I think I don't really get burnt out. I mean, I'm an extrovert, so
Me
I get charged with being more social. So I think it does depend on who you are, but
me too.
I don't really mind the travel. I'm just stoked to be there. I'll say that if you haven't been to one of these big tournaments, LobbyCon is the best part of all of it,
Yeah.
right? That's like, you're basically like, obviously we're here to compete. That's a huge part of this. But at the end of the day, the most fun you're going to have is just hanging out with your friends all weekend, playing as much Magic as you can until 2 a.m. and then trying to wake up for the tournament. So I think, these are great. That's why we go to these. It's not just like, and I mean, CDH is kind of unique compared to these other formats. Is like, I mean, I would argue we have a little more fun than 1v1 because it's just more of a social format. So I think, like, don't forget that. Like, that's gonna make you want to come back.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I think everyone's like with the invitational. I believe I was talking to NATO, and he's like, "Yeah, man, that was crazy. I top forward, and then we did LobbyCon and played with Max P, and then I got shit on by Vexing Bobble all night long." And I was, because I had more fun in the LobbyCon than one of the biggest tournaments ever.
Oh, 100%. Like, that's, and you ask any tournament grinder, they're probably going to say the same thing.
Right. Oh shit, I can drink beers with the fellas and play some Magic and
at the same time. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
At the same time. So the second half of this, I got to deep dive into Blue Farm. I want to talk about why Blue Farm has been so good, and then moving forward after the ban. We got to break down Blue Farm a little bit, because I feel like Blue Farm is one of the decks nobody talks about. Like, oh my God, Nadu, oh my God, Kennen, we have to fight, we have to beat it. And no one actually fucking did that to Blue Farm. And I still think Blue Farm's at the top, and y'all have to show me differently after the ban. So someone like you, can you talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of the deck? And then moving forward, I'm going to bring up one of your lists or old lists, and we'll kind of break down card for card and kind of tell us how to beat it and tell us why it is so successful, and maybe when we're brewing, what to look for, maybe if someone wants to repick up the deck.
Totally. I mean, I think, well, so the strength of the deck is that it is good card tribal, right? The synergy comes not from your commanders. The synergy comes from running the best cards. And of course, like, there's a couple synergy cards, like the combo pieces, Underworld Breach, Thassa's Oracle. You could consider those like synergy cards, I guess, with each other. They're combo pieces, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the only synergies in the deck. The rest is just good cards. And so the strength of the deck is that you're never drawing cards that are bad, right? Maybe they're bad in that situation. Like, there's even in a deck like Blue Farm, I don't want to be drawing Mnemonic Betrayal, sometimes Toxic Deluge, Wheel of Fortune, Savines, and I don't want to draw Breach early. I want to draw my payoffs and my draw engines early.
Okay.
So of course that's any deck. You can't get away with that because you have to run cards that win the game. But at the same time, of course, we are just hyper efficient. We're able to win with. I mean, you got to look at this as an Underworld Breach deck, and that's what it always has been. It's just the best Breach deck. I would argue the best Breach deck out there. Maybe not still because of Rogsai, but we're just naturally filling our graveyard, drawing cards until they can't stop us anymore. And I think another way to look at this deck is that we're trying to just take advantage of windows, right? And this kind of buys into how do you beat Blue Farm, and there's a couple ways. One of the ways is, of course, going early like Rog does. If I'm in a pod with multiple turbo decks, multiple Rogsai, I'm going to lose that game most of the time because they are able to get underneath my engines. I will not draw enough cards to stop them, and they will win the game before I can. So my strategy going into the Invitational, actually, because I knew it was going to be a Rogsai heavy meta, was lean in a little bit more, right? We don't want to lose our mid-range grind power, but we want to be able to take advantage of those early windows and play our Necropotence, play our Adnaz. If you look at the mana value of this deck, it's higher than it was because of the bans, but going into the Invitational, mana value is 1.18. Rog size mana value was about 1.42 going in. So that's a really high value.
Wow.
You're going to like,
yeah.
And some of that's because they have less lands, but yeah, so this deck it's a really good Nas deck. I think that's something that people don't know because they don't see this as a Nas deck. They see this as a Ristic deck. But if you jam a Nas tapped out on turn 2 and it resolves, you're going to win the game.
Really?
Like, almost every single time. And I think people don't know that. And that's still the case.
Going forward, that's the case? Because I don't know if Rogsai wants to do that.
It does. It definitely does. Almost all the time.
Okay.
There's times when you're going to Rog. I mean, Rog is. I mean, this is a better Nas deck than Rog. That like, unless you have
Whoa.
mana floating.
Okay.
The reason that Rog is, you consider Rog a better deck, a better Nas deck, or most people do, is just because they can cast it better. Resolve to add Nas, I would say Blue Farm is still better. Just because you're going to draw more cards. And like, if you look at a Rog side deck, they have a ton of 3s, some 4s, but I mean, their density of payoffs is so high, and payoffs cost more mana, right? You're gonna like a rule of thumb is you don't want to spend more than 2 mana unless you're basically winning the game with it,
Okay.
right? Or it's your commander, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at Rogsai, and that's exactly what it is. And so, but yeah, so if you can get in before the engines are online with Blue Farm, that's a great way to beat it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to join. You're gonna have to play their game, and their game is drawing cards and finding a window. Like Born Upon a Wind ended up being one of the strongest cards added to Blue Farm, because what we want to do is, like, honestly, and it's a little different post ban, but pre ban, what I wanted to do was I wanted to go into turn 3 with 4 Ristic Studies in play. I want everyone to have a Ristic Study. I'm never countering the Ristic Study. I want them to have one as long as mine's here, especially because I don't want it to be a 3v1. I want to sit back, wait for my moment, and then win with a Born Upon a Wind or Final Fortune, or untap after someone else wins. And that's why, like, this deck still runs more interaction than most decks. We're on 14 counter spells. Most decks are on less. And after the bans, obviously this has changed a little bit, but we're able to actually push through these wins, get to this critical mash, and win the game. So that's kind of how you want to look at this. And if you got to be ready if you're joining this mid-range grind fest. Once everyone has these Ristic Studies online, don't be the first to push, right? You're not gonna do it. Either you're gonna have to wait until someone else does, and I think that's really, really important. And like, that's what I'm doing with Blue Farm. I'm just setting up, getting my mana online, getting my card draw online, and then winning as soon as it's the best opportunity where I don't think I'm going to be stopped. So yeah, that's the game plan.
Yeah, I don't see any bad cards. I mean, Necropotent, maybe Copy Artifact.
Well, Necropotence I will be cutting. Because of the current meta.
Like 10 days ago.
I was right. I was going. I mean, I have updated this, but after seeing the meta, it is slower than expected. Rog. I mean, I think it depends on how the tournament meta ends up feeling. Because the reason Necropotence is in here is because of Rogsai and other Blue Farms, right? Just going quickly. You need to be able to keep up, right? And so Necropotence is a card that you can mull for aggressively and then, win on turn 2. Yeah. And so that's no longer as important. So yeah.
Okay.
That's I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be swapping that with, but that's the plan right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we got a couple more minutes. So last thing I wanted to touch on. So, well, first and foremost, Blue Farm is still good, right? We're going to see it at the boil, but you don't.
Still great.
It's probably not the best deck, but I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, TNT. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to cut Adnaz. I'm just going to make it control. Like, no, this deck is still good, guys.
No, they're just using it as an excuse to play their pet decks, I think is all that it is. Yeah, which, hey, I'm doing it too. But like, just know that.
Right. No, I'm the same way. So last thing I want to talk about, let's talk about the meta going forward, right? What is the meta? If there's no more drastic changes? Holy shit, September, die already. Right. God, we're in October now.
Yep.
What do you think the meta looks like in a couple years, or say 6 months, a year from now? Like, do you think we're in a good spot now? Do you think, we're cool? We're bad? Give us your take.
Yeah, I mean, I think like right now we're in this really tumultuous time because people don't know what to do, and I think it will settle down, and we're going to get back to meta decks. Currently, I've seen a lot of non-meta decks. Like I said, I've been playing Shorekai, which has been actually winning way more than I thought I would. So I'm going to be like, that's why I'm going to be playing in a tournament. So, but it's basically like the idea of Shorekai right now is, run extra counter spells. I'm running basically every single free counter spell to stop Rogsai on turn 2. And then I'm running a bunch of creature hate to stop the creature decks. And of course, just using the best draw engines to power
Humility?
That. And so that's kind of like, I think a good way to look at the meta though, is we're going to have these early pushes for wins from these turbo decks. Maybe there's a couple more that come out, but most of the time it's just Rogsai.
Mhm.
And after that, we're going to be in a full mid-range grind fest.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see more Smothering Ties. We're going to see more copy enchantments and steal enchantments, which is wild.
I love Steel Enchantment. I've been on that before the ban.
Yeah.
I love that
So
card.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So people are going to be trying to draw more cards. Games are going to be going a little bit longer, and you're going to have to be ready to wait for your perfect window. That's going to be harder now. And so I think, moving forward, as people explore the meta a little bit, people are going to stop playing these slow stacks decks because they don't win as much, and it's not going to be as forgiving in probably in 6 months from now. And I think people are going to start coming back towards these meta decks, these more efficient decks, and the format's going to speed up. And I think that's where ROG is going to start really taking hold of the meta.
Yeah.
If we don't get any more, changes from Wizards of the Coast, because we don't know how long that's going to be. So I think be ready for ROG to come back soon. It's going to be here now, but it's going to be better soon because people are going to stop playing so slowly and all these weird decks, and they're going to start trying to play the meta decks where ROG is. I mean, the more ROG that's in the format, the better Rogsai is.
Right.
Right. And I mean, you could somewhat argue that's any deck, but basically you just can't stop them all. That's the real.
Yeah, but again, there's going to be more control in stacks and more Shorkais and more Timnithrasioses. So I think it's gonna teeter a little bit. But yeah, no, I agree with you. What do you think the Boil's going to look like? Yeah, for now. What's the Boil going to look like? Is it going to be a bunch of Rogside Blue Farm? It's just going to be a bunch of
the Boil's going to be wild. There's not enough time to solve the meta. I think the Boil is going to be like the most non-meta Boil, like non-top deck
for the biggest CDH tournament ever.
Right. Yeah, I think we're going to have a ton of brews, and I think that's going to be really cool. So I think there will be a lot of Rogsai. I think there's going to be a lot of Kennen. And I think people are underestimating Blue Farm and just wanting to switch because it's no longer the best deck. So I think we're going to get less Blue Farm. Still a lot, though, but not the numbers we had before. And I think, everything under that is just going to be there's going to, of course there's going to be TNT, but there's going to be a spread of just so many decks. Because people can play what they want and they get another turn, so they have a chance to actually try it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely think I'm a fringe deck master. I love fringe decks, just not taking them in tournaments yet. But now, like those slower decks that were like good, right?
Yep.
But they weren't over the hump. Like there's a million examples, but maybe like when Noda's back in the format, right? Maybe the prison decks are back in the format. Stuff like that. You gotta see me that Shorkai list. I'm fucking interested, right?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
It's been winning a lot. It's been good.
Well, again,
we'll see how long that holds up. Though.
You're like top 3, top 4 player though. Like,
well, I've been sending it to some other people that have also been winning with it. So it's not just me.
Okay, whatever you say. That's the thing with.
Hey, I'll try to prove you wrong this weekend. We'll see.
That's the thing with Dargo Thrasios is that deck was really good. I always thought that was a top 10 deck, but people that aren't you and aren't what's his name? You said him earlier.
Manila Midget.
And you.
And Snazerific was the other like real
there's 3 or 4 players that were doing work with it. But the second y'all got off it and weren't playing it, the deck went way down. Right?
Yeah, I definitely feel you. And I mean, part of that is like, it's fun to, these decks are non-meta strategies. They're not totally figured out, and they're like not necessarily easy to play. So obviously if someone doesn't know the game plan, it's not going to go as well. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, that's dope. Are you going to go to the Boil?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll probably be playing Rogsai.
Cool. Yeah, me too. You got to sign my Timna.
Oh, absolutely. I got you.
You got to sign it, dog. That's so dope. That's about all the time we have. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I mean, not really. I've been just, I'm on Twitter if you want to find me, on Discord at Freedom Waffle. And if you ever want to reach out for coaching, still doing that a bunch. But yeah, just hanging out, doing tournaments, and having fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, you're one of the OGs. Like you're also, I wanted to tell people, you're also that guy that always catches the cheaters. That's my favorite thing ever. They're like, oh, controversy, and then it's like, got cheating on Mox Masters, and then here's Freedom Waffle's video, and it's like, of course it's him.
Well, I think at this point now, I don't always catch them, but people come to me to compile the evidence because I'm known for it. So I think that's what the reputation has done. Exactly. It's so funny.
You're like, all right, let me. What's their IP address?
Yeah, right. Gotta keep them honest, man. Gotta keep them honest.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for doing this, man. That's another fucking Doom of Fools podcast. That's Freedom Waffle. I'm Doom of Fool. Y'all have a good fucking day. See ya.